Our next speaker is Lisa Burton.
Hi, Lisa Burton, 257 Center Avenue. I am here on the anniversary of the dismissal of the New Rochelle Municipal Housing Board. It's 6 months since the board was summarily relieved of their responsibilities by the then acting city manager on his last day, 11th hour, 11th day, last day. And I just want to kind of bring everyone up to date. You know, they're still trying to clear their name, you know, because something like that is really harmful. You know, it's a volunteer position. People committed numerous hours for the benefit of the community, and they get fired without due process and opportunity to respond. Respond to a letter that HUD sent that said that there were some financial issues, that they have they have answers to the questions that were put in that letter, and the irony of the city also getting a letter from HUD saying that they were not in compliance with the way they did filings or funding rather for 2 years in a row, but there was no kind of public we got to do something and wringing of the hands. It just, we're going to take care of it and it gets done. So, you know, I just want everyone to really be mindful that the community spends time and with an interest to helping the city and helping our residents, and certainly that was what the New Rochelle Municipal Housing Board did. They had worked so diligently in terms of trying to find a way in which the last remaining public housing in New Rochelle could be sustainable, could be broadened, that the number of people that is on that footprint could be expanded by a public-private partnership, but where the residents had ownership. And it was an innovative program. It was shown to the development department, and then 17 days before they're about to move forward and vote on it, they get dismissed. It is something that we should be concerned about, and council needs to be concerned about it. We cannot keep having one person decide everything in terms of who's going to sit on a board, who's going to get dismissed from the board, who decides what is a good dismissal and who's not. You get to appoint people, but you don't. The power to remove them is with only the city manager. The city manager form of government is about 100 years old. It is not flawless. And I think that we need to probably have a conversation about how the people can be part of this process.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Damon Marr.
Good evening, Damon Marr, 10 LeCount Place. I speak tonight in support of the 4 commissioners of the New Rochelle Municipal Housing Authority who were abruptly dismissed by former city manager Chuck Strom 2 days before his retirement, and in the process impugning the integrity and reputation of highly talented and experienced board members, as well as the board itself collectively. Commissioners immediately responded to the new city manager to ascertain the charges and to understand why no prior notice had been given to them, especially since they had a long history of excellent work. The outgoing city manager had appointed and reappointed these commissioners and congratulated them in writing for their efforts and progress over several years. They worked tirelessly to bring the Housing Authority out of troubled status with HUD in 2021, resolving 31 of 33 issues HUD had raised. The 2 unresolved issues regarded finances, and the city, in fact, had the responsibility for the oversight of the authority's finances pursuant to a written agreement mandated by HUD, which took significant power away from the board. The former board believes its demise began when it refused to consent to the construction of a Starbucks drive-through, abutting Bracy and supportive housing that's there as well, in violation of city ordinance providing drive-throughs in residential neighborhoods. Further, the city did not support the board's plan to redevelop Bracy houses, as discussed, in a way that would provide a path to ownership for Bracy's residents, many of whom have lived in Pugsley Hollow 4 generations and were displaced with the eminent domain and so-called urban renewal plans of the city when it expanded I-95 and built Memorial Highway in the 1960s. The board has been working with Fordham Law and Harvard grad students to develop a legal and financial structure as well as sustainable design for Bracy houses, and the city seems intent on privatizing instead, paving the way for high-rise developers to gain access to the site. Former board members believe they were unjustly terminated and sued the city and state Supreme Court on May 1st on the grounds that their due process rights were violated. State law requires the city to give the board a public hearing to hear and rebut any charges the city wants to make. Papers are public record. I've read them. I've read the pertinent section of the public housing law. It seems clear that they were unjustly terminated. Now the city seems intent in delaying and not sitting down with attorneys to settle the matter. Would the city rather proceed with the lawsuit with the expense to both sides, one side being us, the taxpayers? Will the city use delay tactics to avoid a resolution until after the primaries for mayor and council seats? What does the city have to hide? The commissioner's dismissal was wrong. They must be given an opportunity to rejoin the board should they choose to do so in order to continue the vital work they were doing to support the 100 families living at Bracy houses. I support equity-based development.
Thank you, sir.
Bracy, the residents deserve no less.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Robin Anderson.
Tonight, we're going to be entering into the record an affidavit in support of the petition against the City of New Rochelle and the city manager and the current members of the Municipal Housing Authority. Pursuant to Article 78 of New York State law, the petition is being brought by the former members of the Municipal Housing Authority that both Damon and Lisa have been speaking about. This affidavit is a summary of a review of facts and documents pertaining to the termination of the board members. The affidavit has been submitted by James Stockard Jr., who says, I believe that my knowledge of Public Housing Authority, their governing boards, the process and procedures of HUD, and the nuances and intricacy of public housing make me uniquely qualified to provide this opinion. For the court's edification, I am an academic career liaison with the Department of Urban Planning and Design at the Harvard Graduate School of Design and have been a lecturer at Housing at Harvard School of Design since 1997. So there's a really long list of other things that he's done there. So initially, he says, it's important to acknowledge that despite my career dedicated to public housing, including municipal housing authorities and HUD, I have never seen a single instance of a HUD director of public housing writing to a chief executive officer of a city suggesting he review the appointment to the existing Municipal Housing Authority Board and make changes as necessary that may well result in the removal of lawfully serving board members. So that letter in this document is going to be referred to as the D'Ancona letter from the HUD Authority. And Stockard says, I previously prepared a letter in February 2023 for submission to the new city manager, Gill, who succeeded Strom upon his retirement. In my letter, I pointed out a number of reasons why it appeared that the board's dismissal was inappropriate and unwarranted. Unfortunately, I never heard back from the city manager or anyone associated with the city of New Rochelle. Since the preparation of my letter, I have reviewed additional documents and information related to the performance of petitioners as board members and believe that there is no legitimate basis for their termination. Even in the case of the DC Housing Authority, which was on the HUD's Troubled Housing Authority for 17 years and suffered from numerous irregularities and performance issues, no such action against the board was ever taken. In March 2021, HUD confirmed that the Housing Authority of New Rochelle achieved a standard public housing authority performer status and corrected many of the errors and deficiencies which led to the previous trouble agency status. The board's action in moving out of trouble standing into the standard practice is an impressive and certainly not a condition for removing them from the board.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Guy Robinson.
Good evening. Guy Robinson, 67 President Street, New Rochelle. I'll just continue with what Robin Anderson began here from James Stockard's letter. The board's success in bringing the Housing Authority Board to standard performance status is a significant achievement, especially considering the economic backdrop of every housing authority in America. Every housing authority struggles with their financing because the U.S. Congress woefully underfunded both their operating subsidies and their capital improvement budgets for many years. I'm going to skip to some of the concluding paragraphs here so that we can cover the important points here. In reviewing the Dancona letter, the Strome letter, and the letters and documents submitted in response by petitioners after their termination, it is clear there are additional factual inaccuracies and erroneous assumptions. For example, with regard to the alleged financial issues raised in the Dancona letter, it's clear that those were the responsibilities of the city, its chief financial officer, its staff, and the financial professionals hired at the behest of the city of New Rochelle. It is the board's responsibility to make policy, not to run the daily activities of the agency. Both HUD and the city manager ignore this. Moreover, a number of the allegations in the HUD letter bear upon its own responsibility and failure to provide relevant information to the board in a timely fashion. For example, any complaint by HUD that there was no operating budget for fiscal year 21 on record for 2021 implicates HUD not in not notifying the board until 18 months to the end of the fiscal year that this information was missing. The letter from petitioners to Kathleen Gill thoroughly rebuts on a point-to-point basis the allegations contained in the Strome and Dancona letters. It is shameful that petitioners were not allowed to address the allegations before they're being terminated by outgoing manager Strome, who, it does not appear, bothered to conduct any sort of investigation or inquiry, or acknowledge the city's responsibility under the cooperation agreement. In connection with my review of this matter, I had occasion to speak with several members of the Housing Authority Board who were terminated. During these conversations, I formed a very clear impression of serious professionals working hard to create a credible and worthy public housing authority committed to advancing the affordable housing needs of those people of modest means. As I noted earlier, I have spent a good deal of my time professional life training public housing authority commissioners. I believe I have good ability to judge the seriousness and skill with which a commissioner approaches this work. I believe each of these commissioners is competent, serious, and capable of serving on the Housing Authority Board.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Our next speaker is Bruce Soloway.
Bruce Soloway, 76 Vaughan Avenue, and I'll continue reading from Mr. Stockard's affidavit. Given the foregoing, the dismissal of the petitioners from the NRMA board suggests it was motivated by a hidden agenda unrelated to the mission of this public housing agency. I've been advised that a possible reason for Strome's action in removing the board appears to be political, and in response to a previously scheduled vote by the NRMA board on its plans for the Peter Bracey project that was set to occur after the new year, plans which were at variance with the plans of some in the city to turn over the project to a third party for development purposes. The NRMHA board vote was set to occur on January 9th, 2023. Within days of HUD and Strome learning about this upcoming vote, Strome terminated the board on December 29th, 2022. If this is in fact accurate, then such action by Strome and the City of New Rochelle is, in my mind, highly irresponsible. Public housing has a simple mission, which is nevertheless difficult to accomplish. It's to create the maximum possible number of quality, affordable homes for people of modest means for the longest possible amount of time. Any effort that does not serve that end is misguided. In my letter to City Manager Gill, I pointed out many of my concerns set forth herein, urged that she reconsider the actions of her predecessor and reinstate this board and allow them to proceed with their revitalization of the NRMHA. I further requested that she ask the individuals and the HUD official who wrote this letter to appear in her office so they can have a serious discussion of the issues raised in the Dancona letter. Unfortunately, as of this date, I've never heard from City Manager Gill or any representatives or officials from the City of New Rochelle. I understand that the petitioners are seeking a public hearing and opportunity to respond to the allegations referenced in the Strom and Dancona letters. Given what appears to be meritless allegations of wrongdoing alleged against petitioners, they should be given the opportunity to respond in an open public forum. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.